Well, hello, old friend.
Who is this? What's going on?
Well, I'll tell you, you and I haven't done a podcast. First of all, let's say this. Welcome to the Coaching Life Podcast. My name is Chris Stewart, and I'm speaking remotely with my old buddy, Patrick Martin.
Hello, everyone.
So you all may have forgotten about us, but if there's one or two people still looking in your podcast app there to see if there's going to be a new podcast to come up, then maybe we'll have something to give you today.
I actually received a picture, a message today, a picture of the front of Schoonover Center on the campus of Ohio University, and the individual was kind of reminiscing on the good days of the Coaching Life podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sent you a picture of the closed studio there.
Yeah.
The darkened building. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Pat. Actually, one of the conversations I had with people this morning in regards to that podcast studio and the college's use of it this year, I don't think we're going to be able to open it. To be really honest with you, that with the regulations that are put on cleaning and disinfecting and being in an enclosed space and speaking into microphones, and there being I guess there's no other way to say it, a fear that the virus could spread in those spaces. And so I don't know. I mean, we talked a little bit about what we could possibly do. And so where the conversation ended, quite honestly, is right here doing what you and I are doing right now, utilizing remote apps like this one. We use Anchor FM, and that's what you and I are talking on right now. And then there's there are others as well out there. There are a few others that do something similar to this, and I think that's one of the things we're going to do is we're going to basically use the opportunity to teach our students how to engage in podcasting in a different way, using these remote apps.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Might be a valuable lesson.
Yeah, it'll be another layer to their education, really, about podcasting. Because honestly, I mean, this quality, as we listen, as people are listening to this right now, obviously the quality isn't the same. And of course, as soon as I say that, the wind starts blowing. And as I'm outside walking right now. But the quality isn't the same as sitting in an enclosed studio with highly professional microphones and desktop equipment. Recording yourself digitally in high definition. But we're not we're not really mastering this to get it out there. And it isn't like a Aerosmith album. We're not. That's not the idea.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of things are going to change in this direction, at least for the next several months anyway. I feel like, a lot of industries.
Yeah, certainly in the world of education.
Yeah, sure. Because, that idea of going in and I guess you'd call it maintaining the space is difficult and challenging, and obviously it requires resources, people, time, supplies, and that you get to the point where it may not make sense to do that. Where if you can, if there's alternative methods of doing the same type of thing you would do inside that space. So I actually read an article just before we got online here about some schools that are providing an online option, K through 12. I'm talking about an online option, and one of the caveats to the online option is they won't be able, if they're fully online, they won't be able to participate in school sports or extracurricular activities. Yeah, I'm not for sure what the thought process is behind that, but I know it was something that had been mentioned in the past of, I know Jerry Snodgrass was fielding these questions a lot on Twitter when he was still the director of the HSAA. People were wondering, if it's fully remote,
what's going to happen with sports, and if there's an option and kids stay home, what's going to happen with sports? And the hang up with a policy like that is currently kids that are home are allowed to participate in school sports and extracurricular activities. So I only bring that up because to me it's another way things are evolving and changing around this pandemic that we're experiencing.
Yeah. Well, I can say this, Athens city schools have opted to go fully remote for the first 9 weeks at least. And they also are preparing to have sports, fall sports. And so, it definitely can happen. In fact, I know the way I'm pretty sure they're looking at it is that, there's a huge difference. You kind of have to look at it on a case by case basis. There's a huge difference in having every student in your district come to school buildings, so let's just say it's the high school, 700-800 students, versus having a football team of 50 kids that are together every day with a certain process, the same process every day,
right,
and things like that. And that, it's in a way, those sports teams are kind of isolated with one another, to be really, but even that doesn't prevent it. I mean, you see what's happening right now in Major League Baseball, right, with a couple teams who've had people test positive, and I just don't think that there's any. I mean, is the goal to keep anybody from ever testing positive? Well, I think in some people's mind, yeah, but I don't think that that's realistic.
Right, it's happening in football too. Teams are returning for training camp, and they've already seen some players get tested positive too. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think we have to, at some point, I don't know, we've really done a great job of this for whatever reason. We have to transition from getting those positive tests to being able to respond to the positive cases and knowing how to control those in whatever ways that we're able to do that. So that infrastructure I don't think is really in place yet in a lot of places across the country. So the infrastructure and the willingness also the infrastructure is not in place, but the willingness to sort of adjust that narrative to, okay, we know people are going to get it. So how are we going to deal with that now? That, I mean, so I don't know. Hey, let's talk about something else. I don't want to get into this anymore. Well, it made me think when you were saying that, because the first thing that came to mind was misinformation, but there's just a lot of information out there on the coronavirus, and it kind of made me think. It's kind of like sports. If you do a YouTube search on, the perfect swing, you're gonna find very quickly 4 or 5 different concepts that kind of contradict one another.
And you know what? Here's the reality behind that. That's a great metaphor, Pat, because all of those concepts can be backed by science.
Oh, yes.
I mean, the swing is a science. Ted Williams' book, the greatest book on hitting ever, is called The Science of Hitting, right? And so, the argument that some people trust science and other people don't trust science, I think is a little bit narrow-minded, because even the science has been, the science and the data can be used in ways to make a point on the opposite ends of the spectrum. And I think that's where I find myself frustrated, is that I do want to take everything seriously, and I want to make sure that everyone in my family and everyone in my community are safe, and I'm going to take all the precautions as well. But I also don't want to be told that I don't trust science. When I say that I'm not as devastatingly frightened about going out of my house as maybe my neighbor is, or somebody else is, and I think that's what's happening, is the arguments are devolving into childish elementary school type arguments and finger pointing. Yeah. That's revolving around, people's politics, basically.
What it serves as is just a bunch of distractions, really.
Yeah, it is.
Getting us to where we want to be, and that's...
Yeah, and that going back to your analogy, that's what happens when you talk about hitting.
Yeah.
hitting. You remember way back when Twitter used to have this thing called hitting Twitter, and people were arguing about hitting.
Yeah.
I mean,
you mean
before
yesterday?
we got distracted with all this. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
right. But hitting, pitching, pretty much everything in sports. You'll find different perspectives on things, and that's actually that's something that I wanted to talk to you about. Really, I mean, I think we have something that could be really useful that I want to share with you, and I want to bounce it off of you. And I wanted to do this the other day, and you said, go ahead and just record it yourself. And I thought, no, it's easier to have to do it in conversation, because sometimes you can sit down and you can record something that you plan to say, but then when you have dialogue, it's sometimes helpful to hear your perspective on something that it makes me think of something that maybe I would not have thought of otherwise, and vice versa.
You're going to flat out put me on the spot here.
Yeah, because you don't have any idea what I'm going to say, but it's something you and I have talked about before, and I'll tell you how it came up.
Okay.
I had got a phone call from a friend, an old friend, who doesn't live in anywhere near us. They actually live in a larger suburban area in a larger city, and they're thinking about moving from that city to a more rural area. And this person contacted me because they trusted me, in my opinion, particularly about their high school child, going to be a junior in high school, who's a good baseball player, wants to play baseball in college, and they're being told that if they move from the larger school area, where there's more opportunity for travel teams, more exposure in that school and things like that, to a rural area, to a smaller town area, then he is going to lose his opportunity. He's not going to have the same kind of opportunity or as great of an opportunity to be recruited to play college baseball. And so the whole question was, so it comes back to this issue of recruiting and what is needed, what's necessary. And I know that a lot of people who listen to our podcast, this is a relevant thing for them. They have kids that maybe want to play ball in college, and they probably are wondering, because let's be real honest. I mean, our podcast audience isn't going out to, we'd like to say it's worldwide, but a lot of the people that listen to our podcast are probably living within a relatively close distance to where you and I live, which is, I would say, rural America, right? And so maybe a good portion of our listeners probably are, when they hear somebody say, well, you're going to lose all your opportunity to be recruited if you move to a small town, they're like, well, yeah, oh crap, that's where I live. What does that mean? My kid has no hope to get recruited?
Right.
And then you'll have some people respond to that by saying, hey, if he's good enough, he'll be found. And just to some extent, that's true. When I say some extent, I say if he's within the top 5 or 10%, yeah, they'll get found. Yep. But most kids don't fall in that top 5 or 10%. And so the question then is, and the question I guess that this particular parent really wanted to answer is, would I be making a mistake? Would I be making a bad move, and failing my son, and to because it's actually, he really wants to. He wants to move basically back closer to some of his old friends that he grew up with, right, and play ball with them. But he also wants to play ball in college, and so that it's like a, it's this pushing and tug thing of, well, what's the best course of action here?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. It's a complex question. I think the first thing that you have to do is you got to stay away from absolutes, like you're going to lose all your opportunity if you do it, or you'll be found if you're good enough, right? Because those are absolute statements, and they're really, while they're true, I'd say they're partially true. It's the extremes of the conversation. I think, to be fair, it's true to say that he would lose some, he would lose some of his opportunity, or I would say some of his capability, because if you are in a place that gets more eyeballs, that gets more viewers, that people pay attention to closer, then just by default, you're getting out there more.
But I think you could look at it a bunch of different ways. And, I think we've had this conversation about travel ball too. And, how, what's best? Is it best to pay, $6,000 a year to go play, for your 14-year-old to go play on a travel ball team and, play 60 games a year and spend 20 days in a hotel room and, have that experience? Or what if you played locally and you spent $3,000 on some individual instruction and some strength and agility training? So you start comparing things like that, and it starts to get really complicated.
It does. It does. There are a lot of variables. I think you're absolutely right. You can't just land on one of the extremes and say, well, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you where I am today is actually a much different place than where I was, really even probably 5-6 years ago, and certainly a much different place than where I was 10 years ago, because I'll just say it. I've come to a point in my life where it's like full circle, full circle. I've come back to appreciate more the small things, and that would include the small town, the smaller, the fewer, I guess the fewer, the fewer resources, fewer opportunities, you got someone yelling for you?
Did you hear that?
Yeah. Is that one of your kids?
That's a neighborhood kid.
Okay.
Out in the yard playing. How about
I
that?
thought you were responding to him like something happened. So,
No.
I wanted to make sure that you took the opportunity to. Okay, cool. So back at it. Well, we all kind of go through this. I think sometimes, I want to just get out of town. I grew up in this small town. I want to get out, live in the city. I want to experience different things. And I went through that, and then we'd come back and visit home, and we'd sort of make fun of where we grew up and all that, and I know it probably annoyed and irritated family members who are still living here, right? And things like that. And now that I'm back and I'm I'm experiencing things again that I used to experience, as a kid growing up in the smaller rural area. And, this summer I coached a ball team that was a local, bunch of local kids playing again, with and against players that they would see in their high school seasons. So, pretty small circle of, geographically, I need to turn my phone up there because it just dinged, but pretty small circle of places to go and people to see you play. And I was really diligent with my son, for example, to make sure that he, to make sure that he got on a travel team, to make sure that he went to some showcases. And I think through the process, and after finishing the process and seeing how it worked, I started to think to myself, I'm not sure all this was really that necessary. Now, some of it certainly was, but all of it, there were some things that could happen that didn't require him to, for example, play on a travel team. There were things that happened in his recruiting, I should say,
right,
that caused him to be recruited that really had nothing to do with the team that he played for in the summer,
right,
and the events that he went to. And probably the reason for that is because he wasn't one of the top 10% of talent out there. I mean, he was, most kids who go and play college baseball fall in that 80% range of 90% range of, they're pretty good. You got to be pretty good to play college baseball, but you're not necessarily going to stick out, right? You're not going to, it's not like you're going to be really just wowing people all the time when you're on the field.
Right.
And so when now that travel ball has blown up so much and coaches go and they watch these tournaments, who sticks out to them? It's those kids that are in the top 5 and 10% that throw 90 miles an hour. Or they have just a mammoth body, right? They're extremely athletic, and just you watch them move, and they make things look easy when they move out there on the field, or they just absolutely rake the ball every time up. And so those are the guys that, okay, they're catching their attention. They do notice other guys, but here's the thing. I think they notice the other guys because they're looking for them, because there has been some kind of contact before that tournament, before that time. The kid has reached out. They've that there's been there's something there where they said, okay, I'm going to come and watch you at this game, and they do, and they come. That's what happened with my kids, both of them. Yeah. These coaches weren't just showing up to the field and then all of a sudden they see my kids play and they say, wow, I'm going to write you down on my list. Okay. They were for some kids, they weren't for mine. And so I think the majority of kids, once you make the contact, what you're doing to make the contact with these coaches, then the ball can start rolling for you. And so the point that I'm making here is you could either, well, here's the thing. You could either pay a bunch of money to some recruiting agency to do that for you, or you could hear us talk about it and tell you. You can email me right now and I'll tell you exactly what to do. I give you tell you how to put together some recruiting videos for yourself. Put that on YouTube. What kind of things to write in an email. How to look up your schools that are in your list of schools that you'd like to go to, and you reach out and you do that work yourself.
Absolutely.
And here's the other thing. You could have somebody else do that for you, which is what a lot of people do. And it's what a lot of people assume has to happen, right? I hear parents all the time, well, their coach didn't do anything for them. Their coach didn't help them at all.
Yes.
Well, honestly, it's not their coach's job.
Yeah.
To be really honest. And I know travel, it's a little different because travel teams are sort of built like that. They say, you come here and we'll help you get to college. And so they sort of make it their job. And this becomes this expectation that somebody else is going to get you recruited. But the reality is, you need to get recruited yourself. And here's the other thing. Most college baseball coaches want players who do the work themselves.
Yeah.
And so bring it back to the question that was posed to me now. Is he going to lose his opportunities? Well, when you consider the fact that in today's age and in today's world, we all have access to technology. I mean, even people 3 months ago who didn't have access to internet have it now because their school districts are buying it for them. Right. And because, a lot of people are talking about doing school on the internet. Yep. And so technology and the digital age and the global connection that we have, where you can actually reach out and befriend someone on Twitter, a college coach, tons of college coaches, and you could reach out, you could find out what this coach's email address is and have personal communication with him back and forth. You don't need a middleman. You don't need a mediator for that. You can do it yourself. Honestly, Pat, it doesn't matter where you live.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you play for. It doesn't matter if you play Legion ball in the summer or travel ball in the summer. It doesn't matter if you lift weights or you play. I mean, it'd be better if you're playing baseball, because one of the questions they're going to ask you is who you playing for, right?
Right.
And they're going to want to see you play a little bit, maybe, whether it be video or in person. But the reality is, if you know how to do the work and you know what it takes to get yourself recruited, and that's why I'm going to keep putting it, get yourself recruited. You've got to do the work. Yep. If you know what it takes, it doesn't matter if you live in big city USA or rural town USA, flyover country USA. Coaches will know how to coaches will recruit you regardless of where you live. Yeah. And that's kind of my point.
You're saying create your own opportunity.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
With everything in life, in fact,
yeah.
This isn't just a baseball thing.
Yep.
If you want opportunities, you got to create it for yourself.
Right. At least I have plans this fall to coach a 14U baseball team in a local league here. And I've, thinking about my approach and how I wanted to go about coaching the team and what our goals would be. And I think, going in, the number one thing that I have on my mind, the number one thing I want the players to take away from the season, hopefully, that if we get to partake in it, is the idea of ownership and owning every aspect of who they are, not just on the field, but as a person, but owning their mentality, their attitude, owning their role on the team. Right, owning their response to to negative things that happen to them in life and during the games. I think a lot of times in our society, it's become very easy for us to point the finger somewhere else instead of saying, I'm going to take control. I'm going to, as you said,
isn't that the truth?
I'm going to create my own opportunity, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, that's good stuff right there, man. I look forward to seeing how that works, how those kids' lives are transformed at the end of the fall, because that's the real deal. I mean, that's what it's about. That's what sports are intended to do, is to help you learn those kinds of lessons.
Sure.
And, and I feel like that's one of the things that's one of the takeaways from this past summer. The team that I had the opportunity to work with, Coach Hewitt and I, was, we just kind of, told them at the very beginning, look, that we know you're going to make a lot of mistakes. We know that mistakes are going to happen. We know that there's going to be a lot of adversity. There's going to be a lot of failure. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for you to get down. But we want you to, one, never make an excuse about it.
Yes.
Never get defensive about it. But do exactly what you're talking about. Take ownership of it in such a way that you realize, I can learn from this. And if I choose to learn from this, if I choose to learn from everything that's happening, and I don't focus on the wins and the losses. I mean, it didn't really matter this summer anyway, but I just focus on, how is this making me better? We said this, we promise you, we guarantee you will get better as a player, and you will get better as a person. And I'm telling you what, Pat, I saw this group of boys turn into men this summer. It was a really cool thing. And we didn't have a great record. I think we won 5 games.
But you won most of them towards the end, didn't you?
We may have won 6. We started winning. Yeah, we started winning more toward the end than what we went on 11 game losing streak or something like that before we won a game. But we, it was, you could see, it's such a rewarding thing to watch, because you could see the kids getting better. You could just see in so many different ways. They were improving. I mean, in the game of baseball, they were improving, and in their mental aspect, they were improving.
Sure.
There were kids that we had to sit on pretty hard at the beginning of the season and let them know, look, you're not going to be allowed to pout. We're not letting you pout. That's not allowed in this game. It's like Jimmy Dugan says, there's no crying in baseball, and you're essentially crying here when you pout about stuff that happens to every baseball player in the world. Everyone strikes out. Everyone pops out. Everyone has this kind of stuff happen to them. Stop crying. I had a kid get mad because he got hit by pitch in the very first game of the season. Gets mad, slams the bat down, and kind of walks down the first base. And so we immediately changed the outlook on what it means to get hit by pitch. We said, why do you get mad about that? You think that kid's really throwing at you on purpose? Come on, man. You've hit 6 of them yourself. Are you throwing at those guys on purpose? Sometimes the ball gets away, and so it's those kinds of things where, not everybody's out to get you. Right. And when things happen in life that are tough, it doesn't mean that no one's helping you, that no one's available to you, that you're all alone, that we're just too me-centered sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. But I think when it comes to this whole recruiting thing, you got to be a little bit. You got to understand. Yeah, you've got to do the work. To get back on topic there, you've got to be me-centered. You got to recognize, okay, if I'm going to get recruited, it's up to me to make some of this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something we've talked about before, because, it's easier for those college coaches to receive video and, to get emails from people that are interested in coming and playing on their team, because they don't have to leave their office. So, logistically, it's better for them that way.
Exactly. And you know what else? That's been the entire way they've had to recruit this summer.
Good point.
They did a lot of their recruiting that way anyway, but this summer very, very likely could have completely transformed the way college baseball recruiting happens from this point forward. And I'm not saying that you'll never see coaches want to get out to ball games again, because we know how baseball coaches and baseball people are. Heck, I don't have anybody to recruit to anything, and I love going. If I see a game, I'm stopping to watch.
Right.
You know, I mean, I know a big part of the being a college coach is getting out and just networking with other coaches and being there in the atmosphere of the ballpark. But I'm telling you what, man, they had to find all their players for this year, or for the following year, the next 2 years, on video this year. They couldn't go to parks.
Yep.
Well, when I say that, I'm talking about NCAA coaches.
Right.
The NCAA schools that give scholarships, D2 and D1. NAIA coaches were able to go, and junior college coaches were able to go, although a lot of junior colleges are closing up in our state, at least, which is, it's sad. Yeah. But no, I mean, I think it's something to consider, that it's learn how to use video. And if you don't know how to do it yourself, one of your friends probably does. If there's anybody listening right now and you just want help, what do I do to make my own video? Just give me a call. Shoot me a text or an email, and I'll tell you where to set up the cameras. And when I say cameras, I'm talking about your phones. I'm talking about everybody's got a camera in their hand right now, And so it's really the playing field is level. It really is level. There is no more woe is me. I live in rural America.
Right.
The playing field is level. If you want to play college baseball, you can play college baseball. If you're good enough and you do the work.
Right.
We can't leave that out. You still got to be good enough, right?
Right.
You still got to throw and catch. You still have to understand the game. You still have to be aggressive. You got to be tough. You can't be, you got to, because you're going to go, if you're not one of those people, and you're going to be there for basically the fall, and you're going to quit, because you're going to find out real quick what it's like to be a college athlete. But there's nothing like it, though. if you're made for it, there's absolutely nothing like it. Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Well, that's my thing today. Did you have anything else you want?
Or you sound out of breath there, Coach. Are you all right? Have you been running? Or
I'm almost up to a run now. I'm telling you, it's sunny, it's hot. Yeah, I've been walking I'm walking by these one people down here on the bike path, and I'm just talking up a storm. Remember, they're used to people doing that, talking on the phone, but it must look different and sound different when you're doing a podcast rather than just
what they're saying.
A normal
phone
conversation.
There's that guy that's on.
I recognize that voice. Yeah.
There's that guy that's on Pat Martin's podcast. That's what they're saying.
Yeah. Yep. The Pat Martin Coaching Life podcast.
If that was true, my name would be first.
Yeah, in the credits.
Right.
It is what it is.
Well, good talk today, Coach.
I think so.
This was a good change up from what we've been doing the last couple months.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been a while. I mean, how many weeks have we gone now without putting the podcast episode out? Has it been 3 or 4?
Oh shoot! I thought it was more than that.
Really?
Has it only been 4? Yeah, I think it's been longer than that. I mean, I don't think we released.
I feel ashamed.
we stopped being disciplined in our effort to be significant.
Yeah, episode 59 was June 23rd, where we talked about the importance of wearing one.
Well, that's not
getting hit by pitch.
That's not as long as I thought. I thought it was longer. Yeah, so that's not that bad.
So it's about 3 weeks, right?
About 4.
No, 4 weeks.
Going on 5.
Yeah. So we went an entire month. That stinks.
Maybe we'll get back into it.
We'll get back into it. Yeah. I mean, just embrace this remote thing and let's just go with it.
Yeah.
See how it works out.
Well, it was good talking to you today.
Yeah, it was. I agree. Good talking to you, and we hope everyone out there will jump back on board with us. How about we just go ahead and commit, Pat? Let's get back into it once a week. Okay. I just clapped my hands even right there.
You broke.
Fired up.
Yeah, okay.
I'm fired up. That's right. Let's get once a week, baby. Here we go.
Well,
Here we go.
Oh, I'm good. We can do that. I can commit.
All right.
So we'll get back to it.
Hey, I'm telling you, that's better than Tim and Brian Kite. I'm going to tell you right now, I love the Focus 3 guys, the Focus 3 podcast with Tim and Brian Kite, who helped out Urban Meyer with all the E+R=O stuff.
Right.
Every single week, those guys would do a podcast, and that you would wait for a month, and they would do another one. They're like, okay, guys, we're going to get really better. at doing these more often, and we're gonna do them every week. And then you'd wait another 3 weeks and they put one out. Okay, guys, we know that we got real busy and we couldn't get together and talk. So I'm thinking, come on, dude, you guys, your whole spiel is about discipline. Quit telling us you're gonna do one every week if you're not gonna do one every week.
Well, yeah, so, we better not commit then. We better wait and make sure we drop one next week.
Yeah. I tell you what, whether you and I can get together anyway, one of us is going to pull out our phone and record something and put it out there for next week. How's that sound?
All right, that works for me.
All right.
We'll make it work.
Good deal. That's right. Awesome.
All right, Coach. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yes. We'll talk to you next week.
See you then.
Bye-bye.